So it is June the 3rd here, and we're talking about CTI accountability. Just as a quick recap for everybody who hasn't either been on one of these before, I'm going to try and keep everything kind of on track. So if we get kind of off topic while somebody's talking, or if somebody's going on for a little too long, I'll cut you off and rein you back in. Please don't take it personally. If you have something that you want to say, there's the digital hand raise, or if you have your video on, you can raise your hand as well, and I'll call on you. I'm going to be trying to also keep notes of what we talk about tonight. So that's going to be, if you see me looking distracted or it seems like I'm not listening, I promise you I am, but I'm just a very slow typist. So we're going to go ahead and get started. First of all, I wanted to kind of give a quick little recap on some CTEF stuff. The website is continuing to be updated, so please check that out. Christine Whittemore did a really nice article on Transform the Trade, and we're starting to see a little bit more movement with that as well. From that, we're hopefully going to see some more initiatives as things go on. We have a CTEF board meeting that is actually coming up in just a couple weeks. So actually a lot of the stuff that we're talking about in these meetings, including this one specifically, is going to be brought up at the board meeting. So just so you guys know what we're talking about, it's being heard. And there are obviously always practical limits to what we can actually accomplish. But we are trying to take all of this and make the CTI program better. That being said, let's go ahead and get started talking about CTI accountability. Now, this topic was kind of brought up over the last couple of weeks with a few of the different posts that we've seen on the groups talking about, what happens when a CTI does bad work, whether it's for a homeowner or they've subbed out to another contractor, something like that, right? And we're not gonna name any names tonight, so let's be clear on that. But the question has arisen, what should CTEF be doing? What can CTEF actually do? And then what sort of line do we draw? And then what's the minimum that we can do? Like, can we do nothing? Is there something that we have to be doing? Because again, there are limits to what we as a body can sort of do. And then in addition to that, sort of what we actually have the resources to do. Jim Olson likes to bring up that we only have 2 people on staff at CTEF. It is Scott Carruthers and Kathy McAllister. They've got a lot on their plate, but we're trying to make CTEF a better organization. And even with the shortfall from COVID, we're still trying to project a roadmap for the next year. So let's go ahead and open it up. I see Flash has got his hand up, so let's talk to him about accountability. I'm going to unmute you, Flash. Don't worry, I got you in a second. Of course. All right, you're just going to have to go ahead and unmute yourself. I couldn't unmute you.
No problem. I got it.
All right.
You're good?
Yep.
I mean, I guess accountability would be the first thing, because I think a lot of people get it really twisted when it comes to having a CTI. I mean, it doesn't mean that you're the best. It doesn't mean that you're an official badass. I mean, in so many terms, it means that you meet the requirements. But along with that certificate, I think there is a responsibility to do good work, and for us as a community of CTIs and people of the organization to kind of step in, see if the person needs some help, because it doesn't look good, and especially with the community of the whole tile organization. Everybody knows everybody in some way, shape, or form. And I'd hate to see someone come in here and get a CTI and then just really do bad, and then people are kind of talking about this person instead of reaching out and providing some assistance to that person. it could be mentoring. It could be a lot of different ways. But you know what I mean, to get them back onto onto what they need to do. And then also, do CTIs, does your certificate, does it expire? Is there anything that we can do as far as furthering that education? Because I know a lot of certifications, they expire after so many years, right? So
Right.
at that point, because things change. So I think that we need to be able to adapt.
Oh, we lost you a little bit, Flash.
It's
So,
just my opinion.
all right.
I was just saying that's just my opinion. I think
Okay. Thank you for that. I think Ashley had his hand up first, and then we'll go to Paige.
All right, so am I unmuted? We got it?
Yep.
Okay, so, talking about accountability, and I'm going to speak specifically about what we see on the Facebook groups, because that's like where, that's our biggest tile community, all the different Facebook groups. Mm-hmm. And some of these posts that get made about CTI work, it really hurts the CTI movement, because I'm going to refer to it as a qualified labor movement more than the CTI movement. It's just what we got right now. The CTI is like the basic level for most everybody. I'm a residential contractor. We don't do, commercial work. I'm not union. So I got my CTI to kind of set me apart from other guys. But, what we need to do is, the way I see it, to really push it, is to get people who are, who are already qualified interested in it. Right now on the groups, people see the CTI and they see a bunch of young guys interested in it. But the old dogs, the guys who are experienced, the ones who know what they're doing, who follow industry standards already, they kind of see it as a joke, because all you have to do is pass a test and you're good. That's it. So I think when we talk about accountability, we need to start on trying to find out a way we can continue. You need to be able to keep that CTI. There needs to be requirements in order to keep that number, even if it's just 5 hours of training a year, which I know most CTIs go to. But, there should be some type of way you have to continually educate yourself to prove that you're involved in the industry. I know a guy right now who, in my area, is a really great guy, the only other CTI here. Great tile installer. I'm not saying anything at all bad about him. He's just not involved with what we're doing. He's not involved in the industry. And as far as I'm concerned about it, this is our first step to really legitimizing our trade, and making it where the guy that just goes by a trowel and a bucket is not a tile setter. He's just a handyman. Right now, he can say, I set tile,
Right.
So I'm worried about it because, I think that in the next coming years, the next 3 years, we're either going to make it or break it. Either we're going to continue the steam that we've got going because of Heidi and a few other people in this great board that CTEF has now, or it's just going to fade out, Mm-hmm. So I think we need to talk about ways we can legitimize the CTI, because right now it's just a test you pay to take and you rock on. Another thing that worries me about it is CTEF, we're associated with CTEF. Like, whoever passes that CTI, we become associated. They put our names on their website. So if somebody goes and does bad work, and say it's a customer, somebody goes to the CTEF, gets the CTI's name, calls them up, they do bad work, that's going to hurt us all together. So that's kind of where I'm at on it.
Great. Thank you for that. We're going to go to the Paige, then Jim Segos, then Craig, then Jim Upton, then Jamin. I'm not forgetting you guys. If you can digitally raise your hands, please do that. Go ahead, Paige.
Just to save time, Carl and Ashley both said just like the continued education and, just maybe checking in every 2 years or so and just making sure, you haven't, you still have that pride to, do things right. But then also, maybe to piggyback off something Craig said, I think 2 meetings ago, getting involved with all the manufacturers and taking advantage of the different systems that are available. But then that's also a different issue too, with certain things. But no, Carl and Ashley pretty much said what I wanted to say. So
okay,
we'll go to the next person.
All right. Thank you for that. Jim Segos, go ahead. Wait, hang on. We can't hear you. I don't know why. There we go. All right, one more time, Jim. Go ahead. You unmute yourself. I can't unmute people apparently. There
Got
you
it?
go. Yep.
All right. First thing that I think is contractor accountability for themselves. You got to know your limits with this stuff. I just got a call the other day about like 290 square foot of exterior mosaic glass from one of my reps actually, and I turned it down because I just don't have the experience in it and I wasn't comfortable doing it. I think we as installers have to know our boundaries with that and be comfortable in what we are installing. And then the second thing that I wanted to say was that with the CTI testing in itself, I don't feel like you should be able to take that test back to back to back, just because it's, you know what you need to do when you go back in there. There should be some kind of timeline on there in between where you can go and hone your skills a little bit more, get a little bit better. That way you're not like, 2, 3, 4 months apart, going back to back and taking it. There should be like, minimum 6 months a year that you go back to doing what you're doing, get better, and then come back and hit it again. Because it's pretty much a puzzle at that point. You know what I mean? You're putting the pieces in and you don't get it the first time. It's almost guaranteed that you'll get it the second time, regardless of where your skill set's at. You know what I mean?
That's an interesting point. Yeah. Did you have anything else to add on that?
No, I'm good on that.
Okay. Craig, let's go to you. I've got hands going up all over the place. Go ahead, Craig. You're gonna have to unmute yourself. Apparently, I can't unmute people.
Okay.
I don't know why.
First thing I want to go back to, I think Carl had a really good point, which is this notion of a community of CTIs. There is not enough. There's not enough time or energy for the staff of the CTEF to do everything else and police. However, maybe what we need to consider is a member CTI review committee. If there's a problem, the problem gets put out. We figure, 4 or 5, maybe 7 CTIs on this council look at the issue when it's presented to CTEF, review it, and then take several different corrective actions that we can figure out as CTEF. Maybe it's a retrain, maybe it's a, hey, look, this was marginal, we want to keep our standards up. Maybe it was a, you know what, this was egregious and you need to go take care of it. Otherwise, if you don't, you're going to lose it, your rating. However that works, that may be something to consider. The next thing that I wanted to just throw out there is, we need to remember that the rating of a CTI is meant to be basically a basic journeyman's level.
Right.
We're not talking about masters. We're not talking about awesome. And I think that was addressed earlier. It's a basic journeyman's test. And I realize it's still not even equivalent to the BAC journeyman, but that's kind of the idea. And with that though, maybe we need to go and look at proving hours on task. And I agree with the notion of back to back to back being a problem. But what we're really talking about is building an apprenticeship culture, where people come into the trade, they're mentored, they're trained. Once they get to a certain level, then they take the test. That is a whole cultural shift, especially with guys who've doing occupied residential remodeling work coming from a remodeling industry. There's nobody to mentor them, and obviously, I'm looking forward to the point where we figure out how to mentor these people. But that's just a little bit I had to mention. But no, I really like Carl's idea of a community of CTIs, maybe policing each other, and that, maybe we need to look at CE as a part of keeping it, but I don't necessarily know how to do that.
I like that. Thank you very much, Craig. All right, next is going to be Jim Upton. Sorry, you're going to have to mute yourself, Jim.
There we go.
All right.
Hey, I just want to say I sort of agree with what's been said. I do think there's like some, I don't know how you would quantify minimum hours, because when I took the test, I don't know how I would have proven that I had the experience that I had, you know. But because yeah, I think there's like newer people and they're trying to like train exactly for the test. And then so they get a shot and maybe they don't hit it, so they take it a month later. So anyway, I just kind of agree with you know, they're just having a little bit of experience and maybe not being able to take it back to back. But you know, I kind of disagree with everyone else on the on the taking the, you know, like policing ourselves and that sort of thing. I don't know how you can look, you know, like we shouldn't be able to post photos on the internet and those are grounds for, you know, revoking your CTI, you know. And the other thing is like a CTI, you know, you take the test, you have the skills, it's not a diminishing skill, you know. So like you pass it once, you should be able to pass it. I don't know why you would have to keep taking it to prove that you still have the skills. It's not like
so I'm gonna interrupt you on that one, Jim, just because when we're talking about continuing education, we're not talking about like retaking the same test. We're talking about other modules. It's sort of the same thing that architects and interior designers and lots of other different professional certifications have, where you have to put in certain number of hours per year to show that you are staying active with the training and education, and that's being able to show that to keep your certification.
I would sign off.
alive.
Yeah. I agree with that.
Okay.
Like that.
So
but not retaking the test. So
yeah,
anyway,
I don't think we want people to have to retake the test.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead. I think the next one was Jamin. Jamin, I can't hear you. You're gonna have to unmute yourself. Oh, Jamin still can't hear you. Hold on. There we go. Wait, lost you again. There we go.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, there we go. Thank you.
Hey, thanks for doing that. Sorry, I'm pretty lame at knowing how to do this stuff. I'll try to be quick too. Maybe something to consider is the test itself. It seems like it's set up for what? Industry standards, efficiency, and speed, right? So if guys are thinking speed and quick, maybe they don't have the skill set to do things maybe a little more methodical. That is just one point, you know, the way the tests are graded. And I'll be honest, my module sucked. Like, it was ugly. I would never have that in a home.
So, Jamin, I'm gonna hold you there just real quick.
Yep.
Is your suggestion more towards what accountability should look like, or is it more about like the qualification of the test itself?
I get the accountability issue is knowing that people can do the work at a high level, I guess. You know, I didn't see all the drama. I heard about it. I don't know what the work looked like. Apparently it wasn't good. I've heard that from other people, from other CTIs in our area, and that have been fired from other contractors because the work just wasn't good, but they're CTIs and they're fast workers and they know standards. So maybe the standard of the test would help that accountability as to the standards of how good the tile install is. Like I said, my module was ugly. It's something I would have never left in a house for a customer. I would have been embarrassed, but I was trying to hurry and trying to get it done in a fast, you know, speedy way. And that's not how I work. Maybe there's something about the test and the speed that could be manipulated, or maybe there's different calibers or levels.
Okay.
It's just a thought. That's all I got.
Thank you. All right. I think next we've got Matt Wellner. Matt, where are you at?
There we go. Can you hear me?
Yep.
I guess just echoing some of what everybody else has already said, but I'm one of the evaluators, and there's been a few times that I've finished scoring somebody, and I wish that there was a place that I could go, yeah, you need somebody to coach you for the next year. And I guess I know in the past we would have never been able to have those capabilities, but as we grow as an organization, if somebody needs some work, I think pretty much everybody on this phone call would be willing to spend a little bit of time or donate a little bit of time to help somebody else out. So if you're in Georgia, hey, go meet up with Ashley Andrews. If you're in Jersey, hey, hit up Carl the Flash and just spend a little bit of time with them. You need to, just get a little bit more experience in this area or that area. But maybe there's an opportunity for some coaching.
So Matt, let me clarify something real quick. Are you saying for those who pass, but it's obvious that their work leaves something to be desired, or are you talking about those who fail and maybe
more so the guys that fail?
Okay.
Because I mean, some of the drama that's been on the groups this last week, I was a part of the test that some of them had failed, but
okay.
It was clear that the skill level was not there. And the question was asked, immediately, when's the next test? I want to sign up. I'll drive. I don't care when it is. I'll drive. I need to take this test. I need to pass this test. And they failed again. And then it was the same, it's back to back to back. I think that there maybe should be a spot for an evaluator to say, you need to hone your craft just a little bit more. There's some guys that miss it by half a point. They had it. There's if it's grout haze, and that's what does it for you. That's one thing. But there's some people that are just, it's blatantly obvious that the skill set is not where it needs to be, in my opinion.
Gotcha.
And just having a direction for those guys to be able to push them.
Gotcha.
Just to say, hey, you need to spend some time with somebody else to help you out.
All right. So before we move on to the next comment, Scott, let me ask you a quick question. The work requirements are still 2 years as a lead installer, correct? How stringently is that being enforced on people actually taking the test? Do they require a letter of recommendation that shows that they have been working as a setter for 2 years, or how are we doing that?
We initially started, Joseph, that we wanted 2 years minimum experience. When I developed the test, I actually wanted 5. And the board knocked it down to 2, saying that if they have that much experience, they should be able to pass the basic test. And I said, I don't agree, but that's what we went with. We did ask for references, and it became, and that's back in the days when we only had a handful of tests. It was so much encumbered that there's just no way we could make it work. So the 2-year full-time lead installer on the website and all of our promotional materials is a guideline.
Okay.
To help them put themselves in a category. Oh, I can't do that. I'm not the lead guy. I don't do layout. Whatever their capacity is, they may not just have the skill set to be able to hit that. And it's pretty much exactly what Matt just said. You almost find whenever you're doing the evaluations, it's almost like they're one of your kids. Sorry guys, I'm the oldest guy here, so I guess I can do that. And you're just disappointed at the end of the test. And I think that there's a couple other evaluators on here that's the same thing. You think they have all this potential, and then when they get to the end, they fall apart.
Gotcha.
And the biggest thing is not the matter of the time. It's not a speed test. It was never designed to be a speed test. It's all about time management. If you can't put your time in the right slot, you'll fail. And that's really the downside.
Gotcha. So we're going to go on next to Eric, and then we'll go to Joe. And then I think, Flash, you had something to mention, and then we'll go to Anthony. So, Eric, go ahead.
Hey, everybody. So I have a couple of maybe suggestions on how we can improve the listings and the accountability and kind of the continuing education and all that kind of stuff. So just to go back a little bit, 10 years ago or so, maybe more, I was more into remodeling, not just tile. And I had been in the Vinyl Siding Institute installer program, which is kind of similar. There's a hands-on test, there's a written test. You have to do a in-person course over the course of a few days, and then you get, rewarded with this certified installer thing. It's a badge, it's a banner, it's, you know, it's a credential, just like the CTI. However, with their program, they don't really have so much as a continuing education as it is a every so often you have to do something to show your commitment to your trade. So for example, I don't do siding anymore. I haven't done a vinyl siding job in 7 years, so I have not done the renewals, and the renewals are, you know, like $100 every year or every 2 years or whatever it is. So I have fallen out of their list of certified installers that they would put on their listing. Or in other words, they would take me from active to inactive. So they kind of keep track of who to recommend that way, because, you know, if they call me and I haven't done a vinyl siding job in 10 years, they're not going to want to recommend me, because I would not reflect well on their program if somebody goes after them to, you know, suggest an installer. So that might be something, just
So like a periodic check-in that you're still active in the trade, you're saying?
Yes, you're still active in the trade. It may not have to be continuing education. It could just be, you know, a written test every 2 years, just to say, yes, I'm still active. Here's what I've done. Here's a, you know, 50 questions or 25 questions or whatever, just to show that you're still interested. You take some dues, $50, $100, whatever it is, you know, every 2 years. And, you know, for one, it you know, injects a little bit of revenue into the CTEF, which is a good thing, of course.
Yep.
But it also allows them to keep track of who's active, who's inactive, who's retired, who's not doing it anymore. So, you know, you can kind of keep up to date on that kind of stuff.
Okay.
The other thing that they do is that every time you renew, I think it's every 2 years, every time you renew, you take a written test, you pay a little bit of dues, and, you know, you get a renewal. Every renewal, you know, when you first take the test, you're a bronze member. And then after the first renewal, you're a silver member, then a gold member, then a platinum member, and so on.
I see.
So when you renew, you know, 6, 8, 10, 12 years, you can show that I've been a member because I'm rewarded with this status that, you know, I'm a platinum member. So I've been continuous in my membership for the last X number of years.
Almost like a legacy badge. Like
yeah, so it's
okay.
sort of another thing, you know, another merit badge to go for, something else to strive for after, you know, rather than just taking the test once and done and they go away from the CTEF forever. You're kind of keeping them active with the CTEF. You're kind of getting a little revenue out of them, which, you know, is good, but you're also rewarding them.
Gotcha.
Rewarding themselves with whatever the requirement is, whether it's a test, whether it's a hands-on or whatever. But you know, after 10 years or so, you got to retake a test or something like that. You know, so it's just, you know, I'm throwing ideas out there. But
yeah, for sure. Thank you for that.
I like the way that that's structured, and I think it could work really well for the CTF to kind of, you know, put those kind of things in place.
All right. Thank you for that. Appreciate that. Now we're going to go to Joe. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hey, fellas. So we're talking about accountability, right?
Yep.
Okay. I just tuned in just right, and I love starting off with what Matt said. So in the beginning, so you have your 3 phases. Okay, what Matt said was if you fail, you should definitely go with in order to grow, you should have a mentor with the CTI. I 100% would agree with that. Just to guide you on the proper steps and the proper, applications in accordance to the CTI standards and the TCNA standard.
Okay.
I think that's great. Going to accountability, obviously with that topic, that particular person should be under probation because they failed with the TCNA. But I'm going to bring back the CTEF has a mission statement, correct?
Yep.
However,
it's actually in the chat right now.
Correct. So okay. So I'm on the website. What we're lacking is a pledge from the CTIs or an oath we should have after we pass. we should put our hand on this TCNA Bible and should pledge and have an oath that we're going to abide by these rules and regulations. Okay? We should have a code of ethics. It's not stipulated on this website. As a CTI member, we need a code of ethics. If you're going to pass and you're going to represent the CTF, the CTI, you got to have these code of ethics. And if you fail those, then you're going to go on probation under review. And then going back to what Eric said, I love that idea. Should be a legacy member status. And if you're on probation, then you should go back to the standards quiz just to maintain that. I like that.
So just so everybody knows as well, we're actually working on a code of ethics, and as well as a can't remember the right word for it, but code of ethics and the code of behavior, basically, and that'll be internal for CTF, but I think it'll be applicable as well. And like I mentioned at the beginning, we're having a board meeting later this month, and so there's a lot to talk about, obviously, but a lot of this stuff will actually get brought up. So. Let's see. I think Anthony, before we get to you, I think Flash, you had raised your hand when you were still driving. Did you have something you wanted to add? You're gonna have to unmute yourself.
No, I really didn't have anything else to add to it. I mean,
Okay.
now that you kind of threw me in there, no, I definitely agree that there needs to be some just some more motivation to keep up and just do the right thing.
Okay.
I think it's easy to get a certificate and just kind of flake off. So listen, we just want to keep people motivated to doing the right thing and keeping them charged up so that they want to continue their education. They want to continue to be involved. So I think that's great.
Okay.
And it's a great conversation. Yeah.
Great. Thank you. Anthony, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
All right. Well, first I got a question before I start just talking. So we are talking about how to keep certified tile installers accountable.
That's the idea. What it looks like, what is actually practical, and what are some ways that we might be able to put it into practice?
Okay. In addition to everything else that's already been said, I hate to be the one to say this. I don't know. I hate to be the one to say this, but I think just like us as installers, we realize that we have to raise our prices for us to weed some people out. I think that might be an issue. I think it's just too accessible to too many people. People look at it as $600, I can do that. And you retake it for whatever the price is. I don't think that it just shouldn't be an option to anybody.
Okay.
Even if it's doubling the price, some people are gonna be like, oh no, it's not worth it. You know what? I don't really want to do that. And it'll weed out some of those people that's going into it for the reasons a lot of us are going into it. I'm trying to better myself.
Yeah.
Some people look at it as, I just want that badge. I care nothing about this after that. And because it's $1,200, I'm not doing it.
Okay.
So price may be an issue. And I think I don't know if there needs to be an interview process or maybe the test. The actual test could be part of the issue. There's an open book test. Anybody can pass this. And a lot of the times it's told to us, oh, it's open book. Mm-hmm. So you're already encouraging people that it's not that serious. Because you can find the answers. So part of it is encouraging to some of these people that, oh man, all I gotta do is read through this book. I gotta pass this test. So we're starting off with, it's not that serious. You see what I'm saying?
I see exactly what you're saying. I appreciate that.
So maybe there needs to be some type of interview process beforehand, certain questions, certain scenarios. I'm gonna use the example, I'm a firefighter. So taking a test for the fire department, there are specific scenarios for questions for you to respond. What would you do in this situation? Like, it's different situations to where people are gonna really have to think like, all right,
Yeah.
as an installer, what's the right thing to do?
Gotcha. I see what you're saying.
There's a right answer, and then there's a not so right answer. It's not wrong, but it's not so right.
Yeah, I got what you're saying.
Critical thinking to say, all right, if this is what I want to do, I'm gonna invest the time to take it to the level of me being certified. And I think that's gonna help with the accountability, because it's gonna be some people, like I said, it's gonna be like, it's not that serious. I don't care. I'm not doing it.
Thank you. Appreciate that. We're going to go to Ashley and then Brad. And then I think Wayne had something he wanted to say, and then Craig, and then Jim. So if by the time we're through some of these, I might forget that order. So please remember your place in line for me. Go ahead, Ashley.
Okay, so yeah, I'll try to be brief. So, we want the CTI to be accessible to people. We want people to take the CTI test. What we don't want is for them to take it again and again and again and fail it. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, and Scott can correct me on this, I think you can, if you fail it once, you can take it the next available chance. And then if you fail it a second time, you're supposed to have to wait an entire year before you take it again, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's a pretty good policy, because some people are just not good test takers. Some people sit down and try to take it and they'll get frazzled the first time. But after you've had the experience once, if you can pass it, you should be able to pass it the second time. There's no reason you should fail it the second time after having the experience the first. So, I'm not, and this is not reflective on anybody at CTEP. I'm not sure if that is being followed the way it's supposed to. I don't know. And I'm not pointing fingers. I just, but if we could figure out a way to make sure that is being followed. If you fail that second time, you wait 365 days. That's just all there is to it. There's no fast tracking. I really think that raising the price would do more harm than it would good, because right now we need people to take the test. We're still, I know people think we've got 1,600 certified installers, and that's a lot, but that's baby numbers. For where we're trying to get to, that's nothing. I mean, when we hit 2,000, whatever that's going to be, that's going to seem like a big number to me, but we're looking at 10,000, 12,000, 20,000. But we want the people to be able to actually provide the work that they say they can do, because that's the mission of CTEP, is to raise the quality of installs, more or less in a nutshell, to raise the bar of the installer. So that's a couple of thoughts I had. I don't think that, I don't think, and the other point I had to make for people that may not realize it is, that CTEP is only 2 people. There's no budget for anybody to do anything else. So what we need to do is, if we're going to do something serious, we need to think about what we can do voluntarily. I'd be willing to do something voluntarily. I know plenty of other people would, but these are not going to be paid positions. But they do, however, if we decide to create some type of, committee or something like that to discuss these types of problems, it's going to have to be on a voluntary basis. And, so we have to have people that are willing to do that, for one. Because, like I said, I think we've got a good thing with the CTI. The test is, it's still changing. It's pretty solid the way it works, but, it's going to change in the future. Standards are going to get different. Things are going to be different. So, I think we're on a good track. We just don't need to lose the momentum we have. And I think if we raise the prices of tests, people are going to just lose interest in it. I mean, right now we already have, like I said earlier, guys who are experienced, who need to be touting how good the CTI is, think it's a joke. And I see it online all the time. These are guys who, of course, for some union guys, some California licensed guys, they don't support our mission because they actually have a licensing requirement. They have stuff they have to do to keep going. And so anything we think about, we just have to remember somebody's got to volunteer to take up the extra slack, because Scott and Kathy can't do it all. They're probably at capacity right now. So, if we're making suggestions, let's be well aware that we're going to have to put our time in to make this thing happen. That's all I got.
Absolutely. And just before we move on to Brad, if anybody is willing to volunteer for things that are coming up, especially in the next year or so, I think we've got a lot of interesting initiatives where we'll need more volunteer energy, more volunteer time. You can email Kathy at tilecareer.com, or you can get in touch with me or Scott, and we'll put you on the list. We'll make sure that as volunteers are needed, we have this pool of people who A, care, and B, want to put in that time for us. So please feel free to reach out, or if you know other CTIs that are willing to do that as well, or even non-CTIs who want to volunteer, please have them reach out. Go ahead, Brad.
And I like a lot of the things that are being said. 1,600 times 25 actually probably pays a pretty good chunk to be able to have somebody do some review yearly. I mean, but I'm afraid if you took CTI and said, hey, we're gonna keep tabs on you. You're gonna have some requirements of things to do. I mean, there's going to have to be somebody to do that. I mean, maybe you could get a committee that would be able to abide by a very stringent set of rules and have a really hardcore structure of what they can and can't do. I mean, I do think we have to remember that an accountability thing that comes from peers could on one side of the coin be a wonderful thing, because who better to be able to judge some type of criteria than somebody else that's trying to adhere to that criteria. But I mean, in essence, we are all still competitors of one another in a sense, and so I think that's a fine line that you would have to be walking to introduce the opportunity for somebody that might have a problem with somebody else that would just open up maybe something that would reflect badly on CTEF. Continuing education, I think, is a wonderful thing. Being a part of the training and education committee of the NTCA, I mean, I automatically think NTCAU. I mean, if you need to pull some type of information from someplace that you're going to tell this person, well, I mean, it's like for our own company, the way for you to advance in a career path at our company is to spend time on the modules. We've kind of crafted it around that. Now, do we have that process ironed out completely? No, but the idea is to always be putting something in front of somebody so that they can move to the next step. So, I mean, you've got a huge collection of information and modules from the NTCAU. If you did want to, make it mandatory for somebody to keep their CTI or to continue to be recognized, you could definitely say, hey, here is a discounted rate for the for 25 modules of the NTCAU, and we'd like for you to get 5 or 10 of them in, or something like that. I mean, I think there's ways that we could be smart about not giving away NTCAU, but at least being able to pull some of that information that they could use. But again, anything that you do is going to have to be reviewed by somebody, and we got to make sure that somebody is a neutral neutral party. Also with NTCAU, if you've got evaluators who see flaws, if we could actually take and put some of those modules in buckets, layout, time management, cutting and finishing, if we could take some of those modules and we see a guy struggle with something and we feel like, that person needs to hone a little more of those skills. I mean, you could hold that number back and say, hey, you passed, basically by your grading standards, by the check marks, but I really think that you need to concentrate on these 5 modules and maybe brush up on this information to take, your skills a little bit further. You do that, and then we'll give you your CTI number. In the same sense, if somebody fails and they need pointed in some direction, I still think that you could use that. And I mean, that's the NTCAU, even from somebody that knows it pretty well, is a big thing. And so it's easy for me to say right now, that could be something that's possible, but it's an idea you may want to take a look at.
That's a great idea. Thank you very much. I think next was going to be Wayne, then Craig, then Jim. So go ahead, Wayne.
Well, going back to what Ashley said a little while ago, he sees 2,000, 3,000, 5,000 guys. We're going to have to do something, and we're going to have a self-defense mechanism built in, because the more of us there are, the more exposure to bad work or problems we're going to have. We've got to have some way of defending the entire. It's something we're going to have to deal with.
So that's a very good point. Let me come back to that, because I actually have a question that ties into that, but I want to make sure everybody who has a comment gets to contribute. So go ahead, Craig.
So, as I listen to these comments, I realize this is an indicator of the CTI's success. I was in the military. I was a tanker. I don't like to walk. But I think in many tile setters' minds, a CTI is similar to like being in the Rangers. And the Rangers have a saying that I think applies here. And there's tab wearers and tab bearers. And, the fact that the CTI has a good reputation is because of the tab bearers. These are the guys who care about the craft, who want to excel. And consequently, as that good reputation continues, there's others who want to get that credential and bask in that glory. And so as we grow, as there's more CTIs, there will be more people who choose to be a CTI, not because they want to better themselves or because they want to better the industry, but because they want to have that cachet. So this is a good thing, because that just means that we're making a difference.
So, Craig, let me ask you a question then in regards to that. Would you say then that as more people who kind of actually care about it, as those numbers swell, the number of those who are tab wearers, it becomes kind of less significant in the effect that it has on the pool?
No, actually, I think it becomes more significant. I think that, if we take a look at people who in the last 2 decades decided to become lawyers or decided to become doctors because, it offered a chance for great wages, they didn't really care. It kind of wait, but it's only because the actual idea is good. It's only because the actual idea is successful. You're going to have people who choose to become a CTI, not because of what they want, but because what a CTI credential can give to them.
Okay.
It's a normal thing. It's nothing to this. What I guess I'm saying is this problem is nothing to be freaked out about. It's just a natural occurrence of something becoming successful.
Growing.
Now, how we deal with it is important, but this is because we are making a difference in our craft. This is because the CTI is actually means something.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Jim, go ahead.
So along with that, with both what Craig and Wayne were talking about, it seems to me like the CTI program, this is a little bit of whining, I guess, on my part, but it seems to me like we get all the bad publicity and none of the credit. And so like when you look at the post that kind of inspired this, there was a lot of things that went wrong on that project, and yet it becomes all about the CTI program. And CTI program has very little to do with what happened on that. And then, but on the other end of it is like, we don't see the guys that are really good and the good projects and the ones that are amazing. Like, there's no credit for the CD. So I don't know if there's anything that can be done about that, or if we can tweak some marketing or something, or if it's just the way it is. I don't have the answer, but I just thought I'd throw that out there.
That's an interesting point. And I think that's actually part of what we're aiming for with the Transform the Trade tagline and the Transform the Trade group. So to sort of have a positive and, positive in attitude as well as positive in light look at the CTI program and the work of CTIs, both from standards perspectives and finishes perspectives. So I don't know if anybody else had any other comments before I started asking a couple questions for the group. Okay, so my first question is, so for example, the post that the sort of situation that inspired this meeting, it's not unique, right? So a CTI, somebody who passed the CTI, whether it was easy for them or hard for them, they go out and they do work for another contractor and it's subpar. So the question for the group here is that a problem with his certification, or is that a problem with his business practices? Flash? I can't hear you, Flash.
No, I'm sorry. I actually missed all that. I'm getting drink for everybody for dinner.
Gotcha.
Sorry.
Looked like you were raising your hand. Never mind then. Go ahead, Wayne.
I think it's both.
Okay.
I really do. I don't know. I feel that because of this, we're more exposed. We're going to take shots, but you can't hide behind, well, it was his business idea. He shouldn't have done it that way. Or you got to defend the CTI. Otherwise, we're running down an alley that's going to disappear.
Okay. Let's see. Brad, I think you raised your hand next.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I just think that you can't, I don't feel like you can police and force people to conduct themselves in a certain way or take away the fact that what we're doing is grading skills. That's what the CTI is we're grading skills and knowledge. Okay. So, I mean, it'd be like saying, I'm going to take well, I don't know. I just don't feel like that you can, that it's up to CTEF to police everybody that gets a CT, that earns a CTI number. Everybody is free to do as they will. I mean, we're free to do as we want in our own businesses. And, there's times where, it's not best for business to necessarily do it in exact way. And that's everybody's freedom, to choose to do that. So to open that up, you're actually, the CTI is now something that it wasn't before. If that's the desire of the larger group to take it into something like that, I can understand. But I think you leave CTI and ACT as a skills and knowledge test. Then if you want to start guaranteeing, because all of these things are tools for the general public to be able to use to make a decision between which installer to use, right? I mean, that's the idea. We're acknowledging as an industry who has skills and who or who we know actually has skills. So if you want to take it beyond that and it comes to an ethics or business practices, then the next level up from that to me is 5-star, NTCA 5-star contractors, because they've actually been vetted, and there is an expectation of how to conduct yourself as a business, because I just think you're taking it beyond what the spirit of CTI is if you start trying to take it away.
Thank you. Anthony, go ahead.
Right. For that situation, the situation that you mentioned, I say it's a business practice. Just like Brad was saying, I mean, the once you get past the test is on your skills. CTI is not teaching you how to run your business. Like, it's a lot that goes into conducting yourself as a subcontractor. And I always tell people, being an installer, that's like the bare minimum for us. We have to be businessmen and women. And that's huge. It's a lot that goes into presenting yourself to somebody as a business. And once you get past CTI, we're not teaching that. CTI is teaching installation practices. That's it. It doesn't go into dress code, profanity and language. Like, that's a whole nother area once you bring that into it. So I think that situation was business practices on both parts, because there's so many things that as a business, contracts and all that kind of stuff that come into play that you can't deny that that's what's going on.
Yeah.
Now, cosmetics, as far as looks goes, yeah, we can say, hey, your skill level wasn't where it needed to be. But then we don't really know exactly what happened. Like,
right.
We're on the outside looking in.
Well, and I mean, I didn't want to draw too much attention to a particular situation, but that is a situation that happens. It's not unique to just one person. So that's why I was asking. Ashley, go ahead.
Okay, so I don't want to speak about that one particular situation either, except for in one regard, because I actually I know more or less what happened, and it is an ethics issue. It's not a CTI issue. The guy that particular situation happened to, the contractor, said that he thinks the guy who did the poor work, he knows he can do the work, but the guy got paid and he hauled ass, is what happened. So it's definitely an ethics issue. I agree with everything Anthony and Brad said, with this one exception. And this is just my opinion, when we pass that test and CTEF puts us on that website, all our names are on there. Joseph, your name's on there, mine, Brad's, all our names are on there. And if there's one or two CTIs doing that bad stuff in an area, and and say a customer is getting that name from that CTI, and they get two crappy CTIs in a row, then next thing you know, it's going to discredit the entire program. That's the way I look at it anyway. I don't want to police, by no means do I want to police the CTI program as a whole, because I think, number one, there's not enough manpower to do it. But, there has to be some type of place where we draw the line, because, I'm not going to speak openly 100% about what happened in that situation, but basically it boils down to the guy got paid, he slapped the rest of it in, and he tore it down. That was it. And, and also I'll say this. I've heard of multiple situations where that's happened with specific people. I'm not going to mention who, but I've heard that happen with other people as well. So, my thing is, if we're going to be affiliated, I'm going to use that word, we're affiliated with CTEP because we're on their website. I don't care how much names you put on there. That's an affiliation. Everybody's going to look at us eventually the same way if they have enough bad experience. It's like, let's just say Schluter. They certify their people. You get a certificate. They don't put anybody's name on a website, no matter how many classes you go to. There's very few places that actually say, hey, we're going to affiliate ourselves with you. And as far as I'm concerned, if there's a person out there with those bad business practices, I don't necessarily want to be in the same affiliation, because I feel like that's going to hurt me, especially when this thing grows. You get 5 or 6 of them in an area, that can seriously, affect the way the CTEP is seen, the way I'm seen in my area, because I am the CTI here. If I'm in the same group as guys who are just ripping people off and running around doing crap work, so when we're saying policing, I don't necessarily think we ought to be like, okay, well, I'm going to slap you on the wrist and let's keep tabs on you for a month or two. If there's 2 reports, your name's gone. That's the way I feel about it. If there's 2 substantiated reports, if they can be proved, but that's neither here nor there. I mean, that's just my opinion on it. So,
okay, thank you. Paige, you next.
Can you ask the question again?
Oh yeah,
please.
In a situation like this where a CTI goes and does substandard work either for a homeowner or for another contractor, is that an issue with his certification, or is that an issue with their business practices?
Great. So one thing I learned when I was actually in high school, and it's actually stuck with me, is that you're accountable for all your actions. So whether whoever, doesn't matter if it's this post that we're making an example of, if you mess up with either, the install or your business practice, that's no one's fault but your own. So it's important that we are able to hold ourselves accountable for our actions. If we do make those poor decisions, can we take the pride and fix that? So I think it was in regards to if it's their fault or business fault. I think it's just lack of holding themselves accountable for fixing the mistake when they know they can do better.
That's a good point. Thank you. Tim Roy, you're gonna have to unmute yourself. I'm having issues with that. Good, thank you.
Hey Tim.
Hi, how are you, Paige? I think Anthony and Brad had a good point. The CTI test is more of a skills test, and it's not separating tile installers from tile contractors, and I think that's the real question. These guys maybe they're an installer, maybe they have the skills to be a decent installer, but apparently they're not tile contractors. And there is no distinction on, as far as the CTI is concerned, whether that person is a tile installer or a tile contractor. And I think that's probably more the question with these specific cases.
Okay.
Continuing ed, obviously big important thing, but if the CTI is getting reports back where somebody's work is that bad or that shoddy, I mean, yeah, it does reflect on the group as a whole. Whether they're maybe in over their head or got put in a bad situation, I don't think really matters. If they need help, reach out. There's enough people out there willing to help somebody who's in a jam. There's enough installers out there that'll go help a guy if he's in over his head, or reps or anything. There's enough industry professionals willing to help in any situation.
Okay. Thank you for that. Did anybody else have anything they wanted to mention about this? Wayne, go ahead.
Yeah, the way I see it, Ashley, Anthony, and I are out working. Ashley and Anthony do an excellent job. People are going to say they're a great contractor, they're a great installer. I go and butcher something, and he's a CTI. They're not going to say, well, he's a lousy. They're going to say he's a CTI and he butchered it. The other two guys were great installers. The CTI might not get the credit for their good work, but we're exposed to the bad part of it because I butchered a job. That's how it's running in my mind.
I see what you're saying, yeah. Go ahead, Jim.
So just real quick, along those same lines, like I'm thinking of like other industries, like say like CPAs or doctors or something like that. If you have a bad doctor or do you blame the organization that endorsed them, or do you usually you just say like the doctor's bad or something. So I like I said, I don't know if there's something we can do about the perception or not, but I just kind of, I don't know. Anyway, I'll leave it at that.
Okay, thank you. So my next, let's see, I think Brad and then Anthony.
I mean, Jim brings up a good point. I mean, I think that to insulate CTEF, and I'm not on the website right now looking at it to see, but I'm pretty sure that it's pretty clearly explained when that name is up there, what that means. When you see somebody listed, it means they've passed a test. I don't think it guarantees any type of actual service. It just says that they have passed the test and have shown that they have the required skills to be considered a qualified installer. I was wondering as this conversation was going on, how many ACTs would that are out there that would when scrutinized would be found to be doing bad work. And I don't think that you're going to find that many, because that individual has taken, he or she's gone that next step. They've said, okay, that CTI is a basic skills test. Now I'm going to keep going. And I mean, so, you know, there's this fine line of promoting the CTI to be something of importance, but we can't make that can't be the end game of a person's career. That CTI, it's really kind of it's just a part of the stepping stone down the pathway, and one we have to you know, make that clear to the people that we are marketing the test to, and then we also, in a way, have to make that clear to the general public as well, who's using CTEF as a resource to be able to find somebody that can do their project.
Okay. So, Anthony, I'm going to hold off on yours if you don't mind, just for a second, because Aaron wants to say something. Go ahead, Aaron. Wait, can't hear you. There we go.
You thought you got lucky. I think they've made it pretty clear, Joseph, at least from my understanding from the last board of directors meeting, that ACT is absolutely not a focus this year. And I was one of you know, the biggest people with the question mark on my head. So, you know, the power's in the people, Brad, and we're back to grassroots, right, bro? It's how many people want to do this in how many areas, so we can get a list going where we get Scott out there, right? Like they've just made it very clear that is not a focus. And I'm very much with your mindset, Brad, just because that's the way we run our company. Everything's a step up, everything's earned, right? You've got to keep people actively engaged. And that's a way to do it. Another notch in the belt. I love that they threw grouts in there. That's one we don't have. I'm like, what's up? When are we going to take the grouting one? So it's not going to be for a while. And Joseph, we need to ask that question. And everybody's wanting that. All these CTIs out there are wanting that next one. So what does that look like? You know, how do we make that happen? And why is, I mean, I don't know. I'm all about continuing education and self-improvement. And I think those are the core values of CTEF. And I think we need to be following them professionally. I mean, hello.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you. Anthony, go ahead with what you were going to say too.
What I was going to say was just back to it's quality over quantity. Like, what's the mission of the entire foundation? Is it just to have a whole bunch of people that's certified, or is it to have people doing the right things? So is it, are we just looking for just to say, hey, we got a whole bunch of people on our bandwagon? Or is it the mission to say, these people do it the right way? So and I think that's what it is. And if that's the case, it's not about if 1,600 are doing it the right way, and we went to 601 and they started doing it wrong, 1,600 is what we're supposed to focus on. Like, instead of just trying to have a whole bunch of people just with a certification, just to say we got this big influence, like we need to be focusing on these people that want to do it right. Just how Erin just said, like her motivation is continuing education and bettering herself. It's not about just a certification. Like, you have to focus on those people that are like-minded. You find the ones in the area focused on, go back to the mission. Like, go back to the mission statement of the whole organization and say, are we meeting that? If we're meeting that within these numbers, then the goal, everything is being accomplished. Now, if the mission is to go.
That's why I invited this dude. He can't even take his seat because they're not allowed anywhere. I'm going to have one in Texas. He's going to drive from Baton Rouge, right? And he wants to make it.
If the mission is for a bunch of numbers, then that's what we focus on. But if not, then I think you will be wasting a lot of time just saying, "Hey, we just want everybody to be certified," because you're gonna mess it up for everybody. Because like I'm horrible remembering names, but it was said earlier that affects everybody.
Yeah.
Once you start bringing that in, that one bad experience affects everybody. They're not going to say, I mean, and it might be situations where they say, oh, that was just a bad installer. But then you might have a situation to say, oh, CTI is something that is out here they just focus on numbers. Like, they don't care.
So we're gonna move on to Craig, then Matt, and then Aaron again. Go ahead, Craig.
So, this again is a response to Bradford. The problem with the ACTs is it's just not happened. And as Aaron said, it's not going to happen next year or this year. And we need those future things to happen. The BAC is continuing to roll with the ACTs. There's some new super awesome ACTs that are going to be coming out, but we actually have to be able to take them in order to make this a valid and viable next step.
Gotcha. Matt, before I get to you, actually, I missed Scott's hand. Go ahead, Scott.
To go back to what Anthony said, and well said, this program has never been about numbers. We're looking for quality people that can do the work. The ethics thing is, we've never been the ethics police either. But we're trying to get the quality people out there so that the consumer has a choice, and they haven't had a choice in the past. So it was never numbers. It's always been about the quality workmanship. Yeah, sure, we see people that they take the test and they pass, and that's their goal. But we can't police what they do. And just to go back to what somebody touched on earlier, I have pulled one CTI number, and that was a classic example where the guy just went and blew the job. He got in trouble and he went back in to finish it, got stopped again because of material shortage, and then just blew it out, and the whole system failed. And the consumer called me and said, I've got pictures and you need to do something about this. And I said, well, we're not the tile police, but the day that he took the test, he passed and actually did pretty well. And she kept pushing the envelope, and I said, may I ask what you do? And she told me what her profession was. And I said, do you have any bad people in your profession? And she said, well, we do. And I said, okay, then help me understand how I can police tile installers who are totally independent. You have an organization that keeps an eye on the people in your profession. So help me understand how I can do that. We came to a reasonable conclusion. I called the CTI and I asked him the question, and he said, she's terrible to work for. I said, I can't solve that. He said, what do you think I should do? I said, well, from what I saw in those photographs, and I will admit that's sort of prejudicial, but okay. But I said, the situation you're in right now, if I were you, I would go down to the flower shop, buy a dozen roses, go to the front door, ring the doorbell, get down on your knees and beg for forgiveness. And he gave me a couple of choice words and said, that's it. And I said, yeah, you're right. That's it. And I pulled his number.
Gotcha.
Because he wouldn't stand behind what he did, and the pictures didn't lie. He just did a terrible job. And I don't know what the one that Jim was talking about, but
Gotcha.
it's just something we can't handle.
Yeah. Right before, Matt, I'm going to put you on hold just for one more second. Before I go to you, Brad made an interesting point in the chat that says, I think the only way you could diminish a person standing with the CTF in regards to a CTI certification is if there's an event that requires a paid, qualified third-party consultant to come out and review the work. I feel like word from an industry-recognized consultant would be indisputable evidence that the individual that has skills, as evidenced by passing the test, cannot be relied upon because they have also provided evidence that they do not use them. That's a very interesting point. Go ahead, Matt.
I just want to point out that when I think about the CTI program, that it's this group of people that's on this phone call right now. That's who comes to mind, and it's for me, it's a positive thing. I'm happy to be a part of this family, and if your family, your real family, is anything like mine, we have a couple knuckleheads in our family, and we just have to deal with them. So I just wanted to throw that out there, that I'm still really super proud to be a part of this. I hold my 1276 number with pride, and I'm happy to be a part of this family. And this is all just growing pain stuff that we have to deal with.
Agreed. Thank you for that. Aaron, you're going to be the last one that we're going to hear from once you unmute yourself.
Did you hear me say damn it?
Nope.
Okay,
But
good.
now we have.
Dang. So the mission statement, this is simple because we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, remember? We were saying, hey, Scott, gang, 5 stars are able to give CEUs to architects, designers, builders, whoever, right? So I'm back to that because I think the solution is simple. And Scott, I know we don't have the capacity and we don't have the personnel because we don't have the funding to be able to manage these activities. And that's where we're stuck. And I get that. And maybe we can find a solution for it. I'm not sure. But the people that are promoting, right? If we went with that, let's say we're just saying using specifications, using TCNA manual to write specifications, right? Like we give them one. We just give them one and say, roll up there and show the trial and error video, show that presentation, and all of a sudden you got tile police. I promise you guys, the architects I talk to, they are fired up. They want to go out to every job site and talk directional troweling and substrate flatness, and right? So that doesn't take much. If we want to be an actual accreditation just like every other, and I know it's licensed, I know it's different, right? But you don't have a teacher's license, you have a teacher's certification. And to maintain that certification, you have to have 12 hours every year. I'm not saying it's 12, maybe it's 6, right? That's saying, hey, the mission statement is CTEF, right? We have the installer paragraph, and then we have, we'll promote the applicable industry standards to new and experienced installers, architects, designers, builders, and tile industry related people. So back to Anthony, if this is our mission statement and our overall goal of the activities are to raise the quality of ceramic tile installation, that's meeting our mission statement. And maybe we treat that as you are meeting our mission statement. You get to keep your certification intact. And Scott, I'm not saying yank it, but maybe a little slap on the wrist, maybe a conversation, right? Something. And I know we don't have the infrastructure to manage that, but people want it, right, Joseph? People want to do it, and we're not giving them, what 5 stars getting, all of them, right? But that helps everybody. And if we're going out there grassroots in our local areas and educating these stakeholders, we're following that mission statement. And that's the accountability that I think we're back to and what we talked about a couple of weeks ago. That's it. I think usually, if we're all pointed in the same direction, if we could just all point in the same direction, which Anthony, that's it. It's just not that hard, right? What's the mission statement? It's just not that hard. Okay, what are we going to do to get there together? And God, Scott, I swear to you one time, if anybody knows anybody that's a grant writer, anybody, somebody's got to know somebody, like, what is it, 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon? Somebody's got to know a grant writer out there that can work on a contingency for some of these federal 503C grants that are out. I just don't have the time, right? I don't have the time to physically write it up. And I think we could get that funding to manage some of these activities, get Scott some more staff, right? And get there. But what comes first, the chicken or the egg, boys? I don't know.
Well, that is the eternal question. And
that is profound from San Antonio, Texas.
Well, that's hopefully something that we're getting to. And I think meetings like this are very productive. Again, I want everybody to know very clearly that we're listening. This isn't just a complaining session. We're looking for actionable items, and we also need to know what our concerns are with the program as it stands and where it needs to grow. So a lot of this stuff is going to be taken to the board meeting, like I said, which is later this month. So please know that what we're talking about, it has weight to it, and I'm very grateful to everybody for participating in this. We had great participation in this one. I've got almost 4 pages of notes. So we really appreciate it. Be on the lookout for the next one, which will be next Wednesday. I think that this day seems to work better for a lot of people. If you have any suggestions on topics for this sort of meeting, feel free to message me on Facebook or send me an email. And other than that, if anybody else has any questions before we go, I'm going to say that's a no. So I'm going to go ahead and end